What's up, familia? Welcome inside the pad. Hope you guys are doing good. Keep your between the lines. Got your load secure. Okay, something special that House of Rest Church, Pastor David and his wife Sharon Rocha, are doing, and I want to go ahead and shed some light on it because I think it's something special, man. So let's go ahead and bring in my good friends, one Mr. Pastor David Rocha and lovely Sharon.
Hey
Hello,
guys.
I salute you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. It's always fun to chop it up and talk to you guys. But you guys got something special going on that you guys have been working for a minute. And I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, but you guys were trying to do this a while back and it just kind of fell flat because the way you guys were trying to do it just
Yeah.
wasn't working out. Can you talk to us a little bit about that before we get into what you guys got going on now?
So when did that start? Well, actually, let me say this. When I was in prison, there was a church in Livermore that offered transcripted sermons. Livermore is kind of toward the San Francisco Bay Area. And I remember signing up for it. And every single week, I'll be so excited, man, because mail call in prison is a big deal when your name gets called. And I would get these sermons like completely transcripted of the pastor preaching, and it almost felt like I was there. So now let's fast forward. I'm out now. I'm with Sharon, and I'm talking to you about it because your brother's in prison.
Yeah, and as a lot of people pretty much know that my brother was doing a 25-year stretch. He's at
He
the
still is. Yeah.
yeah, still is, and is at the tail end of it. And I wanted for him to be able to receive, something, especially when COVID hit.
Yeah.
When we found out that a lot of people, nobody was going in during
Well, they weren't
COVID.
allowing chaplains or nothing.
Nobody.
There was no religious anything in all the prisons across the country.
Everything came to a halt. And I said, would we be able in any way to be able to transcribe the sermons? And we found a sister that took an interest, Sister Rosa, bless her heart. And she said, I will do it. I'll take that responsibility.
Word for word.
Word for word. And even to this day, she continues to transcribe them,
Yeah.
which we're still going to utilize them regardless. But she did it. We started to send it to my brother, and we started to send it to a few more people. And it was such a blessing because they were going through
Every week.
every week. And it was fine. I think we started with maybe about 50 inmates, and then it went up to 75, and we got pretty much close to the 100 inmates.
Mhm.
We were able to send Bibles in there. We were able to send some of the
My
books, the books that we were
Alfonso's
publishing,
book, my book, all the books that we did.
and we started to get correspondence with them. Here's the thing. The beautiful thing is that when they were getting these transcriptions, we were transcribing the intro song, we were transcribing the announcements, we were transcribing
The
the
whole thing.
jokes, everything.
We wanted them to feel like they were there when they read it. you know?
Yeah. And they
Right.
felt that. The response back were like, I felt like I was in service with you guys. They got to know David's fishes. They got to know our names. They got to know every single person by name, pretty much. And they were asking us, well, how's so-and-so doing? How is so-and-so doing? And it felt so personalized. But slowly we started to get mail back. And it got really, really bad to where they were saying, you can't send color ink no more. You can't send one-sided paper no more. You can't send, pictures anymore on the
So we
paper.
were sending the picture of the sermon
Oh,
title.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so your mail was being returned to you.
Yes,
and it's
but
expensive.
yeah.
Because each one took 2 stamps because it was so thick.
Almost $1.
Yeah, the printing, the paper, the postage, and all of we were getting loads of it sent back. And I was really frustrating because that was money that people were giving for this. There was people with loved ones that were sending us and blessing us with some stamps or this or that. And then their families telling them, hey, we're not getting nothing.
Yeah, it was
And that was frustrating.
costing maybe about 1,200, and we slowly started to not get the help of anybody
Yeah.
actually, and not even there was no volunteers. We had maybe about 2 volunteers that volunteered to help, and it became very, very hard for me to be able to do this. And
Financial burden.
the financial burden, everything became really, really hard. And then more and more mail started to come back. And maybe it got to about $1,200-1,300 a month. And we just said, we can't do this. I started to call the Department of Justice. I started to try to call chaplains to say, like, hey, what can we do? Can I send you guys, a binder? Can I do something where I send the chaplains these transcriptions? And we were getting no response. And we had been praying and said, Lord, open up a door for us to be able to get to them, because I know my brother would tell me, I feel like I'm there. This is so needed in here. And I can picture you singing. I can imagine you singing, because he knows, it's the truth. When we say that, when somebody knows your voice, they can picture you, they can imagine you, their thoughts are thinking that. And once people hear your voice or something, they can just imagine it. It's almost like when you're reading a book, you put yourself there. And that's what they do. They can, because if they have a familiarity, if they have a familiarity with somebody and they can relate to someone, they can put themselves there. And I think that that's the one thing, because a lot of the times, because of our testimonies and because of where we've come out of, a lot of the people can relate to us, because we come from a lot of brokenness, and people are like, man, I've been through that. I've been through where David's been through. And because of that, they can relate and they picture that and they can put themselves there. And I think that that has made it has made people feel very comfortable and safe. And it has opened up an area where people are like, man, I understand what they've gone through.
Yeah. So let's fast forward now. We tried reaching out to local prisons. Like, well, maybe we can go into the prisons at least. I mean, obviously, it costs way too much to send these out. Obviously, it's getting sent back. So let's try plan B. Let's try to get into the local prisons here. That was a roadblock. It was a roadblock. Chaplains weren't calling back, weren't answering. If I did talk to a chaplain, it wasn't a good conversation. And I just kind of felt at the end of my rope, and I'm just like, this is like literally for 2 weeks prior to this thing that we're going to talk about happened. And then all of a sudden, I'm in my office of the Wednesday night after Bible study, and you guys know we stay here late. And I got a call at 11 o'clock at night, and it was from a woman in Texas. And she says, hey, she goes, I'm really sorry that I'm calling you so late. She goes, but I have a podcast, and we're the #1 podcast in all the prisons across the nation. We have 2 million viewers. And I'm just like, wait a second, because they didn't have tablets when I was in prison. They didn't have none of that. So I'm like, hold on. What are you talking about? And she goes, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. She goes, basically, I don't call anybody. She goes, our phones are getting blown up because people are trying to get on our podcast. She goes, but I felt led by God to call you. She goes, I need to get you here in Texas. And that's where the conversation started. And she basically kind of ran me down that prisons are not getting letters because people were putting drugs on them.
They're spraying
drugs on them, which started making sense.
It all makes sense. It really did.
Yeah. So what happens is there's a central place to send letters. They scan them, and the inmate gets it on their tablet. That way, there's no contact with anything from the outside world. I didn't know this. That's why we were spending so much money.
Yeah, I have stacks. I mean, stacks of letters that came back.
So there's a ministry that during COVID, they were going in prisons, visiting prisons, ministering to prisons, going into isolation, and that stopped. So they're just like, how can we get the message in there? And somebody got, I think it was a God thing, gave them an idea of getting on those tablets, because inmates had tablets. It wasn't for religious reasons. It was for learning math or like taking classes or courses. And so somehow, some way, this app called Pando app started. And what they did was, let's get churches to upload on this site so the inmates can watch Bible studies and sermons. Because that's what basically, and this lady that called me is, it's called Real Vida. And they have the #1 Christian podcast across the board in all 50 states. And she's the one that called.
For prison.
In prison,
In prison, okay.
Yeah, they're like the Christian Joe Rogans of prison, and they I can see why. They read letters. They'll show funny memes. They give them a Bible
Mm.
study.
So encouraging,
They, they're
edifying.
very encouraging. I can see why. If I was prison, man, I'd be stuck on their show too. You
They're
know?
such beautiful people. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Let me
yeah.
ask you this, Pastor. I don't mean to cut you off. Can just anybody do this? Can just anybody
Well,
say like, "Hey, I'm a church. Let me go ahead and do this." Can just
well,
anybody do this? I've been watching your Bible studies and everything, but I just want to throw it out there for people
yeah,
to see that there a criteria that you have to meet.
yeah. Actually, the answer is
Yes.
yes and no. Anybody can do it, but there's a lot of criteria. Number
Yeah.
one,
A lot of
number
requirements.
one is just the quality requirements. They said you can't record off your phone. You can't do none of you have to have professional cameras, professional background, backdrop. And then if you have that, they want to see your belief statement. They want to know your church address, your church website. Like they just vet the whole thing, to make sure it's a legit church. And then it costs money. It costs money because you got to remember, man, state prisons are there to make money. They are money makers. That's why people build prisons. Every industry, whether it's ramen soups or whatever, they're there to make money.
Right.
Why do you think to collect calls costs more than what the phone? Because the prison is taxing on more money. So to get on this app costs money, and so it's kind of like backwards to a lot of ministries because a lot of ministries are on YouTube to try to make money, not spend money.
I think
Mm.
that's why too the inmates are so appreciative.
Yeah,
I think this is why they're so appreciative because I think they realize what it takes to be on these apps
yeah,
because there is a lot of requirements. It takes a lot more than what people
yeah,
realize, and I think they appreciate because it's constant. We thank you, we appreciate, and but they don't realize that they're a blessing, man. It is an honor and
yeah.
a privilege to be able to be on a platform, to be able because we're so grateful and thankful. They don't realize what a blessing they are to
Yeah,
us,
we're we're spending money to broadcast to them to a group that can't pay us back.
Right. Just to make it clear to everybody, you guys have to pay so your
Yes.
word can go into the prison and they
Yes,
can't pay you back. You guys
Mhm.
need to come up with the money for your stuff for the word to go
yeah,
into the prisons. Let's talk a little bit about that. So does this go to the whole country? There's one Pando app. Is there different apps? Well, how does it go? Does
yeah.
it go by
Well,
state?
from what my understanding, and I guess I'm just learning this thing,
Mm.
is there's 4 tablet systems in all prisons and jails, but the top two are Pando app and Indovo. Indovo is basically almost any jail or prison is going to have one or the other. But like I said, you might have pockets that have the other two. I still don't even know who the other two are. But I will say this is that Indovo services the CDC, the California Department of Corrections. That's the one that we just signed a contract with. And that is, I mean, you're talking Chino, San Quentin, Folsom, um, Corcoran. I mean, all the state
All,
prisons here in
all,
California.
all the colleges.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
also have service 40 other states. So I'm I'm today actually I'm uploading to them, but they vet the stuff a little differently. It takes 4 to 5 days, which is understandable, man, because CDC, brother, in California, man, the prison system here is a whole different beast.
I was kind of laughing yesterday because you're very technical. And yesterday his brain was kind of like, oh my God,
Yeah,
because
yeah. It's another thing too. Like your question is, can anybody do it? Is I'm a graphic artist. I'm a videographer person. I'm really tech savvy. So they have specific requirements like of how they want the file upload and what bit rate, in the pixels of the little picture for the where they're gonna click on. I mean, everything's very specific, and thank God I know how to do all that. But so now we're gonna be on Pando app and starting next week on Edovo, which is gonna we're hitting 85% of every single jail and prison in all of the United States.
Amen to that. Pastor, there was something that you told me when we were talking about this in private that I think you are the only pastor that has been in prison that is doing this type of ministry.
That I know of. So on Pando, there's 108 churches on there, or ministries.
Mhm.
Let me say that ministry, because some are podcasts, some are Bible studies, some are services. I did come across one where he mentioned he did time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one
Okay.
from Florida or something like that, but I don't. Again, I don't know. But here's the thing, though, is that just because you've been in prison don't mean you're in the life. So I think that's what makes a difference. Is the fact that because you could be in prison and been a banker. You know what I mean? The fact is that I'm coming on this podcast as an ex gang member, as an ex dope dealer, as an ex. I mean, I fought a RICO, the RICO Act in federal prison. So there comes some weight that when I talk, I think a lot of the inmates are like, okay, he's one of us. Matter of fact, we're getting letters of people saying, man, it was such a breath of fresh air. They said, we appreciate all these other churches. They're like, we love them. We love the fact that they take the time to upload and we love it. They said, but there's a handful of them said, but you are one of us. And
Mhm.
because Sharon hasn't been in prison, but because she has a brother in prison serving 25, so her statements, her opinions come off very authentic, because she's thinking about Luis, what I mean, when she's talking to
Mhm.
reads these letters and she starts crying, because she relates. And I think they feel that and they know that, you
Well,
know.
I think the women, you got to remember a lot of women have
Yeah.
a background of sexual abuse. A lot of it
Hmm.
goes back to the same thing, that the women come with a brokenness. They come out of rape, sexual abuse. They come out of, battery. They come out of women that have been broken from a childhood traumas and everything. And they too come with all this baggage and everything that caused it was all cause and effect
Hmm.
to where they're at now. And I think that being transparent, we have always been transparent, that, and having that transparency and never shutting down and being an open book here is a good thing, because that's what you need to be. We need to be open books all the time, and I think that that's a breath of fresh air to all these inmates, woman and man, is being that open book the same way we are in our devotionals.
Yeah.
Be an open book, because they need transparency. Because if they can't have somebody who's transparent, then what good are we going to be to them?
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
I really believe, as we were watching all these other churches on there and everything, I love that they have different genres, that they have a
Mhm.
different of opinions, that they're able to go on there and look at the different things, because you have
Yeah.
a variety of people on there that they can take a little bit from. It's like when you chew a bone, you can spit out, a chew of meat, you can spit out the bones, and everything, and you can take a little bit from everywhere and be able to take only what you need and be able to chew on it and be like, Lord, thank you, because
Yeah.
this is what I needed today.
Yeah. What was
It's an
surprising?
amazing
Yeah.
What was surprising when I first signed the contract and uploaded our first video, I went through a moment of discouragement, man, because I realized on there you have Mike Todd, who's the biggest growing church in America, fastest growing church right now. You have Elevation Church, you have Furtick, you have Joseph Prince, you have all these big ministries and pastors, and I'm just like, what are we doing, man? We're this little church in Modesto. And this is what was crazy because I did go, I'm just being honest. I got discouraged when I saw that. And then within 3 days, we were trending number 4 on the whole app.
Mhm.
That was insane to me. But I think it's because of relatability, man, because of the fact that we're broken people, man, went through a lot of stuff, and I think that comes off authentic on the videos. And I put on YouTube the podcast. That way people on YouTube get to see what they're seeing about a podcast. And I'm sure you watched them. So
Yes.
we're just coming off of, just being ourselves.
Yeah, and speaking of transparency, I've contributed to it, and yeah, you guys are transparent, showing. I don't know if anybody could see that, but
Yeah.
when you contribute, you guys go ahead. You're transparent with the people that contribute, and you show the viewership, the hours, the subscribers, the salvations, everything that's happening with this. So if
Yeah.
people
That's
want to
that's another thing
contribute,
though.
and that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's not just like, hey, contribute and then just take our word for it.
Yeah,
Even
no,
though I
no.
That's
even
another
though
thing.
I personally I would take your guys' word for it, but you
Yeah.
guys
Thank
are
you.
sending out,
I'm like, thank
but
you.
you guys are sending out group text messages and emails and saying, look, this is your contribution and this is what's going on.
Yeah.
So
It wouldn't be
this,
possible. It would not be possible without the unity and without the help of everybody coming together. Because the moment that you shared it,
Yeah, because here's out of all of the hurdles, the cameras and make sure all the quality and the belief statement, when they hit me with the basic plan is $1,500 a month. That's just Pando app.
yeah.
right?
That's like rent. That's almost a rent
Yeah,
of a house. And
yeah.
I'm just like, there's no way. I said, for sure the church can't do it. I said, the only way I can do it is if I find 15 people willing to be a monthly contributor or 30 people with $50, something like that. I said, I told Sharon, I said, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. And I just reached out to some people, and you were one of them, brother, and because like I told you, I think on the phone, I know you that when something is real and authentic, your heart's wide open for it, and that's why I created a database. So everybody who is a one-time giver or a monthly contributor, they're gonna get a weekly email explaining everything that's going on, and then, like you said, those charts, the
Mhm.
analytics of the views and everything, and now we're taking on Edovo. So now it's like, okay, now, and thank God Edovo is not as much as Pando. Edovo comes out to like $500 a month, something like that, 480 some dollars a month. And so it's $5,550 a year
Yeah.
for Edovo. And they wanted the whole money up front at first. And
Oh,
I'm just like,
wow.
I said, listen, I said, we're a small church. We're an inner city church. I've been in prison. I know how important this is. I can't pay you that. Is there any way you can break it up into quarters? I said, if you give me a contract for break it every 3 months, I'll do it. And she goes, well, I don't have the authority to do that. And it took a week. And a week later, she goes, you know what? They agreed. So
Oh, nice,
yeah, they made it an
nice.
exception for us, man. They made an exception. So I'm in the middle of today. We're having his birthday party, but I'm also uploading to Edovo starting today. But like I said, it takes 4 days or so for them to go through it. But so now we're gonna have both. And like talking about women's, we had a few women right from women's prisons, but Edovo services Chowchilla,
Yeah.
which is the main
Mm.
women's prison in California. So we're really excited for those women to be getting Edovo because they have Edovo.
So now the new thing also that is going to come along with that, and as correspondence comes in, though,
Yeah.
we're separating the ones that we really feel do need to get a response, that are really, really important. But I'm hoping that in the near future, because there's people that need Bibles, there is people that need a response that are in need of something or that will emergency wise need something, that hopefully in the future we can say, like, you know what, we could send, for Christmas Bibles, we could be able to send something, and we could gradually, get to the point where we will have funds to be able to send, Bibles out. We will be able to send that because there is a lack of Bibles in the prison system.
Since
There,
COVID, yeah.
yes, there
Since
is
COVID.
a lack of study material in there. We still have, Rosa doing the transcriptions, that at one point we will be able to get binders out to every single chaplain from every single facility that we see, so that these inmates could be able to go to their chaplains, because they give them the opportunity to go in to be able to make copies of stuff, and they give it to them for free. So if they can go into their chaplain and be able to get these transcriptions and make copies of them, so that way they can take notes and that way they can have those copies, that would be wonderful for us to be able to give them the whole sermons of the whole year, for them to be able to go in and make copies of those sermons. Because we have the transcripts for the last 3 years, 4 years almost. So that is
Okay.
such a great thing for them to be able to have. Can you imagine for them to have sermons for the last 3 years?
Now,
That would be
here's the
amazing.
thing I want to say in case somebody's watching and saying, who cares? They're a bunch of convicts,
That,
right?
yeah. Okay. So two things before I let you guys go.
Yeah.
One, one is, what if people are out there saying, why prisons? Why are you guys so enamored with helping prisoners out? These guys or girls, they're f ups. You know
Yeah.
why? Let them learn their lesson. Why are
Yeah.
you over there
No,
trying
you
to
have an
reach
answer
out
and
to
I have an
prisoners?
answer.
Why should why should you even reach out to them? You know they screwed up. Explain to
Yeah.
us, Pastor and Sharon, why.
Yeah. My answer is this, and it's an answer that I've thought about this a lot because you got to be sensitive because everybody in prison has a victim out here. Most people, and there's somebody saying, why are you helping them and not us? Think that kind of like that mentality. But I want to say this: for the most part, when I was in prison, there's some people that belong in there. There is. There's people that are monsters, but most people made mistakes. And here's the thing: 85% of people have a release date. So we can't say, well, that's their problem. They're in prison. Because those people will come out to our city, to our neighborhood, to our church, to our workplace, because there are millions. We're talking just Pandawap and Adobo reaches 2 million inmates. That's not even all the inmates, 2 million. And 85% of those have release dates. So do we want them to come out better criminals? But do we want them to come out reformed and changed with a new life? Because I'm telling you right now that Jesus is the only answer. He's the only answer that can tame that monster. How do I know? Because I'm living proof of that. So that's why it's important to me, is because this is the future where my kids are going to grow up in this world. And a lot of these people, incarcerations in the United States, for some reason, even though we're not a third world country, they don't reform them, they don't help them, they just house them, and that is not helping anything. And if they won't do it, then we will, because it should be the church that should be on the forefront of this anyways. And I've said this about, like, for instance, Mikey in Chicano Tube. I said, man, when he started doing these fights, I feel that he fell into his lane. He shines. And I feel like we're falling into our lane where we're going to shine because God put us here for such a time as this. But I know you had an answer to that.
Yeah, my brother, like I said, he's been in there for quite some time already. But I was just talking about this last night, about, he's been in there for so long, but we have a respect for him. And whether somebody's going to be in there for a little bit of time or somebody's going to be in there for the rest of their life, why not let there be change so that he can still be the impact for his family, for his kids, and for the people that are still out here? If he can still have change while he's still behind those walls and still have an impact on his family, still have an impact on his children. My brother's been in there, and yet he's been the voice of reason for his kids. He has been an
Even now.
edifier still while he's in there, because he has had the edification, because he has had that faith, because he has continued to educate himself in there, because he has continued to change his life in there. He has been able to speak life. When we speak to him, I have respect for my brother. He's not in there for a violent crime or anything like that. He's in here, yes, because he came into the state, unauthorized, and they slapped him with a 25-year for coming into this country unauthorized. But he still continued to be that man in his children's lives, and they are successful kids because continued to be that father. He continued to be that man that he was supposed to be. And I believe that whether somebody is not ever going to come out, you could still be that man who's going to speak life into every single person's. Why not?
Yeah. So
I think that
Right.
that's so
it
important.
made me think.
No, go
It
ahead.
made me think of this too. Is that you got to remember that, let's say every person incarcerated, not everybody. Let's say we're talking 2 million convicts, and let's say 75% of them have influence still out here. They have a mother, a father, a wife, a daughter, a son, an aunt, an uncle, siblings. So really, if we are reaching 75% of the person that has influence, and that we're talking about 1.7 million people, multiply that by the people they're influencing. Do you understand? Like, it is going
Right.
from the very roots of the evil and wickedness outward instead of trying to hit it out from in. So you can almost, I don't believe it's an exaggeration, by reaching well, 75% of 2 million people, you're possibly reaching 6 to 8 million people.
Yeah.
You know, because these are people of influence and they're calling home. And I mean, I just see nothing but good things coming out of this.
Absolutely.
You know, I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, and I just want to go ahead and add on there. As somebody who was incarcerated himself, I was, um, you know, if I would have had this right back at that time, it's been many years, but would it have changed my life? Honestly, where my mentality was at that time, probably not. But what it would have done, it would have planted a seed that would have
Yeah.
grown, over time. So, yes, it's reaching so many prisoners. Is it going to change their life like that with a snap of a finger? Probably not. But it's planting a seed that will
Yeah.
start growing and growing and growing. So, second thing, last thing for you guys, if people want to contribute, if they find it in their hearts, how can they help? How can they contribute to this?
They can email us at houseofrestchurch@gmail.com. It's just houseofrestchurch@gmail.com. And
On the website.
or the website's going to lead them to the email anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So houseofrestchurch@gmail.com. Whether it's a one time, whether it's something you want to partner with us, because we're eventually going to figure out what the other two tablets are.
Mhm.
You know, that's for sure, because we want to hit 100% of the places incarcerated. You know, but to what you just said, I want to add this: is even when chaplains or pastors were able to go into prison, they were never able to go into the solitary. They would only go into general population.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing about these tablets: almost 90%, 95% of the letters we've been getting, we got a stack of letters already.
Oh, yeah.
They're all in complete solitary. Why? Because they don't have the social life of being out in the yard, playing basketball, playing dominoes, joking around. They are in their cells 24, well, 23-1. And they are completely like thirsty and hungry for the stuff, because in that place there's no hope, and they're hearing hope. So we are technically reaching the unreachable. Even if you were able to go into a prison to preach to them, you're only going to see the inmates that are doing good and on general population. But everybody knows, man, that the hardest ones to reach are the ones in the hole, and this tablet is doing that.
Those are the hardest ones to read, brother. I'm not kidding, because I never realized, never realized how hard it was, because my brother was in solitary for 6 years. And I never realized how hard that was for him for 6 years, and I know David did some time in solitary, but I think those are the hardest letters to read. But then at the end of the letter, every single time, when you hear how free they feel when they found Christ, oh my God, maybe David can read one to you one day, because it is the most beautiful feeling when you hear the words from these people.
You know, out of all the prison genres, everybody wants to be the tough guy, you know, on these YouTube videos, and everybody's the hardest one that walked every yard and this and that. But I remember hearing stories of people that were in World War II that couldn't watch Saving Private Ryan. I remember
Right.
hearing
Yeah.
people that couldn't watch Full Metal Jacket.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I have never heard anyone in the prison genre, all these tough guys, and many of them I'm friendly
Right.
with, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they never talk about it, because to this day, it messes me up to watch a realistic scene of somebody in solitary. To this date, it's been 14 years since I walked out of prison. And just the other day, remember that movie, The Hurricane, with Denzel Washington? It's a,
Uh, yes.
dude,
Yes.
you're a
Yes.
boxing
Yes. Yes.
fan.
Yes. 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 The hurricane. Yes.
There was a scene when he refused to take off his suit when he first
Right.
got taken in. And I'm just watching it, enjoying the movie, and I broke. I'm not embarrassed to say that, man. I broke because it affected me so deeply, because he was crying and weeping in there, and it brought everything back 14 years later. I spent 1 year in solitary. We're getting letters from a guy. He's like, I've been here in solitary 23 years. What
Wow.
does that do to the mind? You
Hmm.
know, if it is 14 years later, it still affects me to see that. And it surprised me because I wasn't expecting it. I'm just like, oh, I'm enjoying this movie. Oh man, he's going to the hole. He don't want to take. And all of a sudden, it all rushes back, and I start like hyperventilating, bro. 14 years later,
Right.
you know, this
Right.
is a real thing. And so to get these letters, and most of them are for people in total separation, it's a blessing that we somehow, some way can be a little bit of light because they're still human, man. They're still human. They're not dogs.
So when somebody
Right.
says why, when they ask why, I think it should be a very easy answer, that's why, you know, because we're all human. And, for the same reason, my father was a monster, but my so-called father was a monster, but because we have the love of Christ in us, we still love. We still got to love people. We got to love them through it. So
Mhm.
we're mandated. It's our mandate.
Yeah. So if somebody
Well,
does have it in their heart to help, we do send a weekly email and a text. And the podcast the inmates are watching, we do upload it to our YouTube channel so you can literally see what they're seeing.
all right. Well, let me go ahead and say this. If there's anybody to do this job, you guys are the ones to do it. So I'm glad you guys are the ones doing it. I'll leave the last words up to you guys. I've taken up enough of your time. Any last words that you guys want to go ahead and say before we wrap it up?
And I think I said
I
everything.
think I,
I
I think we did
I
too.
appreciate you asking though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
We did.
So,
Oh, you know what's really exciting is I did a Christian film 10 years ago, a
mm,
faith-based movie, and I said, you know what? We decided to put it on there because I asked them. I said, can I put a movie up? They said, as long as you have the permission. I said, yeah, I got the permission because I'm the writer and the director. So
yeah.
we put that up 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I told the inmates on the podcast, I said, hey guys, if you're trying to reach the lost, they're not going to watch a sermon, they're not going to watch a Bible study, but hey, everybody in prison loves a movie, you know?
Mhm.
And so I put the movie up, and just this morning, it hit over 50,000 views.
Close to
50,
56.
is it 50? I don't know. I sent it to him.
Yeah, you
Was it
sent it to me.
54,
I don't know.
56,000?
It's a good movie. I watched it a while back. I reviewed it
Yeah.
on my Moss Movies and Shows channel. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a good movie.
50 over 50,000 views in 2 days.
Mhm.
And it's every hour I check, there's 1,000 more views. So that was a huge blessing to be able to have a movie under my belt, and it made me regret not having more movies.
Well, we
So
gotta
I don't
get to
know.
work on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Paul. Hint, hint, if he's watching.
I told him now you can do it with a better camera, with a better everything.
Yeah, but I'm saying Paul has that Christian movie.
Yeah, because I think that movie was back in 2014 that you made it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
yeah,
all right. So House of Rest Church at gmail.com.
yes,
If
Mhm.
people want to contribute to it. So you guys go ahead and check
Thank
them
you.
out. I will leave the email and the channel of House of Rest Church pinned in the comment section. If anybody's interested, if you find in your heart, go ahead,
Thank
check them
you.
out, and they could reach out to you guys if they have any questions on the email
yeah.
or whatever it may be.
Mm,
So, yeah,
Thank you.
definitely a
We're gonna
good
get
job.
back to this birthday party.
All right. As always, familia, live your life like you're on the road. Be aware of your surroundings and always keep a safe distance. Blood makes you live, but loyalty makes you family. Till next time, this is Ed the Troll Trucker. For one, Mr. Pastor David Rocha and Sharon Rocha.
Bye.
And out.